Look what I found at a yard sale. And there's stuff inside of it, and I have no idea what it is. I have no idea what this thing is, but we're not gonna use it. We're just gonna use the case because it's some sort of flight case. It's all aluminum. It's pretty lightweight by itself, and it has an interesting mounting system on the inside that I think we could take advantage of. The top edge of this has these little mounting brackets, and they're actually screwed in from the outside, so I guess they're removable. But those things can be used to mount something right here on the face, which is probably where this thing lived originally. By the way, if you know what this is, let me know, because it's pretty cool. Anyway, for quite a while, I've been trying to come up with something to use this for. Something that would take advantage of the fact that it's lightweight aluminum, it's really big on the inside, and it's made to take places. Recently, I ran into a problem. And the problem is that I make videos, so I keep acquiring new cameras and drones, and every one of these cameras comes with a different stand or a different type of battery, so you have to have all the batteries and all the chargers and all the microphones, and it's adding up. Now normally this isn't too much of a problem because I shoot most of the videos right here in the shop, and I have a gear cabinet where everything lives so that the sawdust will stay off of it. But recently I was going out to the farm and needed to take a bunch of those little cameras with me, and I just had to throw them all in a backpack, and that's not good. So the idea is to make some sort of a system that goes on the inside of this to hold all of that gear, all of the individual pieces, to where I can take them out kind of a section at a time. It can't just be a stack of foam with a bunch of cameras in it. It's got to be cooler than that. But I don't have a plan yet. I think the first thing to do is to lay out all the stuff that I want to find a home for. Obviously, I want to protect the cameras, so I'll probably end up with some of that tool foam where you cut out the exact shape and squish something down in there to protect it. And I'll probably do that for all the cameras, but I've got to figure out a way to make it all accessible. That's such a big volume, I can't just kind of jam everything in there and stack it on top of each other. It needs to be able to come out a piece at a time. Now all my little action cameras and stuff are pretty small, but my main camera, this one right here, is actually pretty big, and so I have to leave enough room for that to go in. So I'm thinking we cut the volume down into two sections. One that is big and open, has some stuff mounted to the sides, but basically the big camera can sit down in there and take up a lot of room, held in place by some foam things on the outside. But the other side I think should be more like a library. I think it would be really cool if there was kind of a slot system that ran down from the top to the bottom along the sides, and then there were panels that were like right here and they slid down in. Each one of the panels could have cameras and stuff embedded in the foam, and then have some sort of a track on the side so you could drop them in and take them out one at a time. Now, how those panels are gonna get made and what they're gonna drop into, I have no idea. I have to wait for the foam to get here. Well, the foam is here. This is just some cheap stuff I got off Amazon, but you can see the layers in there, and that's so that you can trace out an opening that fits a tool or a camera, cut it down, and then peel out the different layers to get it as deep as you need the hole to be. Now, this stuff is usually made for putting in a drawer, so it's laying like this. My goal is to make it work like this. So to secure the cameras and stuff inside these panels, I'm gonna probably try to put them as close as possible so there's not like a gap for stuff to fall out. I think in general, all the stuff that I'm gonna be sticking down in the foam is not as thick as the foam, so I should be able to put the panels pretty close together. So these panels will just have to get cut down a little bit so that they can drop down in there, but their height is actually perfect because it meets up with this top to hold them in place that way. But before I cut these down, I gotta figure out how they're gonna be held and how much space I need in the front for the main camera. I think I've got enough of an idea to get started. Basically, there's two panels that will be mounted into those brackets, and then each panel has some slots in it. Those slots will accept some sort of a fin that I have yet to figure out, which will go on the outside of the foam. So these should be able to just drop right in. Other than that, there's just a couple of pieces across from the panels just to kind of lock them in position. But I think this is enough that we can go cut some wood. This video is sponsored by Mr. Cool, who allowed me to do something really cool. They gave me one of their DIY ductless mini split systems so I could install it in my sister's wood shop. My sister is a woodworker and she makes beautiful stuff, but her garage shop gets hot or cold depending on the season. Over the course of a couple of days, I was able to install the entire thing by myself because you don't have to have an HVAC professional. In fact, the hardest part of the whole process was just drilling a hole in the wall. This is possible because they have pre-charged lines that you can hook up between the inside and the outside unit and then just open them up and it's good to go. After I got the entire thing installed, we had an electrician come add another breaker, and now her shop is nice and cool. Mr. Cool sent me the 18K unit for her shop, but they also have a 12K and 24K unit. They're all Energy Star certified. The DIY system has a variable speed DC inverter compressor, so it's much more efficient to run. Plus, it's got a great warranty. The compressor has a 7-year standard warranty. There's a 5-year parts warranty, and you can subscribe for a lifetime warranty if you want to. Mr. Cool is a fantastic option if you want to add heating and cooling to your garage or your shop or maybe a shed in your backyard or even a room in your house. It's really easy to install, anybody can do it, and their instructions are fantastic. If you want to find out more and get yourself a system today, hit the link down in the description and go check out the different options from Mr. Cool. Mr. Cool, thank you for sponsoring this video and thank you for letting me do something awesome for my sister. So I've got my little slat wall pieces ready, and I was about to try to figure out how to attach them to these brackets that are mounted on the inside of the case. But I don't think I actually have to do that. These little brackets are mounted in a track that goes around the inside of the case, and a screw comes in from the outside of the case through the sidewall into this to hold it in place. And I was trying to use this because it was there, but I think all I need is the hole that's already in the side of the case. And of course, these things are flatheads.
Oh, come on!
I feel like I should take this moment to give you a reminder that you should be safe in the shop and don't hurry what you're doing, because if you're in a hurry and you're not paying attention, you may put a drill bit through the end of your pinky just a little bit. Ow, I'm fine, but you know, it hurts. Those panels are both in there, and originally I was gonna put a bar across the bottom corners to kind of make sure that they were parallel from each other, but as it is right now, they're bent in at the bottom, which means when you push something in from the top, it's gonna kind of wedge it and hold it in, and that's probably a good thing. But we need to talk about how we're gonna get these things to slide in. So I'm thinking we 3D print something that grabs around the outside of this, but also has a little fin sticking off the back side that can drop down in these slots. So we need to go model that. To Fusion! Check this out, the prints are done. They are a super simple little model, but I think they're actually gonna work pretty well. On one side, they've got the little fin. That's made to go in our slot, and it actually fits really well. But the other side is made slightly smaller than the foam, so it'll kind of squoosh around it and hold. Now, obviously, it's not tight enough to stay in place by itself, so we'll have to add some glue, but I found another problem. These things fit in the slot really well, and they actually move freely, but getting them to actually line up and drop in, we gotta fix that. I think what we need to do is add a little taper to the top of this opening so you don't really have to line it up perfectly. It'll kind of funnel itself down into the slot. It'll make it easier to put in place. I think I'm gonna have to take those panels out and just use a chisel to make that, but the next thing I gotta figure out is how to glue this plastic to that foam. I did a little research and found that basically stuff like contact cement is gonna be the best option, and since I have this stuff that can be brushed on to just the necessary areas, I'm gonna try this first. I need to print a couple more of these and then cut this panel to fit to see if this whole idea is even gonna work. That worked out super well. They are pretty close together, but that means that there's no gap in between them. Nothing's gonna fall out, so I'm gonna say that section's done. But this side needs to hold that camera. So I gotta figure out how to shoot with that camera, of that camera. I guess I'll use a different camera. This is the area that I need to put the camera in. It's gonna fit as far as the width, but there's a whole lot of extra space. So I need to make a way to lock it down into one position so I can use the rest of the space for something else. It's a pretty tight fit, but it does work. And I just need a way to lock it into place. And then I've got all this other area over here. And I think I'm gonna start with a sheet of MDF down there. Now that piece of MDF down there is really just a platform to build something else on. I could just put this in there and cram a bunch of foam around it, but like this is the camera. This is the one I really have to take care of. So I think I'm gonna make something really specific. This thing has to fit super well. So I'm gonna take a picture of the bottom of the camera with my phone and then take that into Fusion and model up some sort of a cradle that this can sit in nice and snug, and then add a strap that goes over the top to lock it down. Took a few tries to get the profile right, but now I've got this. And you may notice that there's a little slot right here. That's so we can lock the camera down. So I made notches in the side of that thing over the lens, and I also made this. It's got little wide sections and a long thin strip across it, plus it's made out of TPU, so it's flexible. We can hook it in there and hopefully lock the camera down nice and tight. Hook it in there, hook it in here. It stretches just enough to hold the lens down. Of course, the important thing is that it fits in this case. It totally fits, which is really cool. And I put some holes in the bottom of this so I can drive in some screws from the top to lock it down to that piece of MDF. And then we only have one more thing to make. So the last thing to figure out is this big volume next to the camera. I thought about maybe just taking a bag and putting batteries in it and cramming it in there, but I think it actually makes sense to have it dual purpose, something that can hold stuff, but also add an extra level of padding around the camera. So I think what I'm gonna do is actually make a box bucket thing that will drop in there, but also have a gap on the inside of it that I can throw a bunch of extra stuff in. Luckily, I've got more foam. This thing's done. Now the only bad thing here is the contact cement is a little yellow against the white foam, but it doesn't really matter. This is a container just for the odds and ends, the stuff that doesn't fit in all of our other panels. Then of course the main camera goes in with the strap. Snap, look, it's in there. Then all of the little extra bits go in here. I gotta say, that is a lot of gear to fit into one case, and one that I got super cheap at a yard sale. Everything's surrounded by foam, which is surrounded by aluminum, in a case that I can lock and take with me. Thanks for hanging out with me. Catch you next time. Sturdiness-ish of it. Sturdiness? A different stand, but then there's these really cool new grown all that stuff in a way that I can kind of take them out at one at a time. And then it's on there, really good, really, it's really stuck. It's stuck on there.